my name is Aisha Malone. I am the owner and co-founder of Rose Café. Just to tell you guys a little bit about Rose Cafe is a reading cafe that we're bringing to the 60628 area code. That is the Roseland Pullman area code and a little bit of Rosemore. We're bringing a cafe, a space to the community because we want to dismantle the book desert in our community. This is giving access to kids. This is giving access of books to kids in the community, trying to make the Roseland community a little bit more walkable. I think we envision the kids walking down Roseland, seeing a bookstore and getting captivated or getting inspired by some of the art, some of the literature, to hopefully provoke better relationships in the community. So that is a part of our mission. One thing that we do at Rose Cafe is we highlight local and minority authors. We sell their books. We pop up in different locations where we can highlight them and let them know what they're doing, that there are writers and authors right in our community. Today, we have someone coming from the Inglewood community. I wanted to introduce you guys to Harold Green. If you don't mind, Harold, can you introduce yourself to everyone?
Hey everybody, I'm Harold Green III. I'm honored to be here.
Okay, so.
Oh, you thought I had more to say?
Yeah, I did.
that was pretty much it for me.
Okay, so then, look, so as we talk about his book, we're gonna get him talking. First thing we wanna ask you, Harold Green, is can you tell us about the title? Why is this book called Black Roses? What does that symbolize? So,
for a vast majority of my career, I have really played around with the flowers thing. Back in like 2011, I started an online series called Flowers for Living. And I wanted to use my poetry to make sure that people felt appreciated and seen and loved while they were here. And that was something I, got from my grandma, and I really tried to implement it in my own artistry, and always kind of using my platform to do such. And ever since then, I've just kept building on that thing. So I have like an artist collective now by the name of it. I have a nonprofit called Flowers for Living Foundation. I have like a clothing line called Florist, and all these different little tributaries of that idea. So when it came time for the book, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna call this Black Roses for women, then I'm gonna call it the male version Black Oak, because this is also about growth, So not only are these women beautiful beings, and I love to juxtapose Black with beautiful things. So we have Black in front of roses, because we all know how much they try to really put a terrible stigma on the word Black. So I always try to juxtapose it with beautiful things. So we have Black roses, but not only are they beautiful, but they're also growing and continuing to grow. You can't grow when you're dead. You're done. You help other things grow by being compost, but you can't grow yourself. So while they're still here, I want to continue to flower, continue to water those flowers so they can continue to grow. And the water is these affirmations and these odes and this appreciation. So that's why I wanted to call them Black Roses.
Okay.
A whole bunch of things, but that's there it is.
Okay, so one of the reasons why I connected to it, because Rose Cafe is inspired from Tupac's poem, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. Mm-hmm. And that was talking about how you can, adversity and things doesn't have to stop the beauty. You still can be uplifted with the right things. And that's what we're trying to do with Roseland, because right. Roseland is the epitome of that. Right now there's a lot of prostitution in the community, there's a lot of abandoned buildings, but we are thinking this crazy idea, if we start with like a bookstore, that could be the help start the Rose to grow.
Yeah.
If they see me do it, then the hope is that other people will do it, and I can go back into the classroom, and then we have this community of thriving Black businesses in this day and age.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure you knew, oh, Black Roses, I'm a Black Rose, because of what I thought a rose was.
Absolutely.
So then we wanted to know, because when I go through your poem, it's a lot of modern women.
Right.
You do not talk about Harriet.
No.
You do not talk about them. Why did you choose to keep it with the modern women opposed to giving us a little bit more Black history of women back in the day?
Because I think we do a solid job of talking about history, and then I think we do a decent job of talking about Black futures. but I think we're missing a big gap in what Black excellence is, and that's the Black president. And I think some of that is, in my opinion, I think some of that is strategic. I think if you continue to make people think that the only great things they did is behind them, then they can't see what's in front of them or what's directly in front of them and how amazing that is. And I think my job as an artist is, my revolutionary act is to talk about how amazing we are right now. You know, I think great poets have the ability to put form to sentiment. So I think a lot of us feel a way about the amazingness of Black women, but we don't necessarily know how to put those words together. We don't know how to put that sentiment together. So it's my job to put a form to that and allow us, you know, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, whenever, when you look back and say, oh my God, this one was doing that and that one was doing that, and this is how I felt about that as well. I think that's important. I think it's even more important for those people to feel that now, because that's motivation.
Yeah.
When you wake up and you go, you know, into the classroom as a teacher, and then you have students that have written you thank you notes, you might stay a couple more years, you know, or you might throw them a pizza party, or you might do a better job as a teacher, and you look up at the end of the year, and now all of a sudden their standardized test is better, their morale is better, who they are as people is better, all because you got poured into, and now you're able to pour into somebody else. So I want to continue to pour into these people while they're here, so the great job that they're doing, it can be magnified, multiplied, because now they got nourished.
How does your educational background play into that? You know, because you're bringing me up as a teacher, and I try to do the affirmations. I try to like uplift the kids and things like that. And then you think about the lack of. Does that have anything, the resources or the lack of, have anything to do with like why you even started writing poetry? Like, I guess the first poem was with Inglewood with Love. Was that something like in your past that had to do with you making sure that that poem showed, like the title says England, so sometimes when you throw that out there, you want to let people know you're from England. Why was that necessary?
Well, my first introduction to poetry was actually my dad. When I was younger, my dad would write my sister and I poems, and there was always this theme of like equality. So he would call us like prince and princess, and I thought that was like amazing. He had chicken scratch like penmanship, so we didn't know a lot of the other words, but we knew every time we saw those two words that really like popped out. And that was my introduction to poetry, and my first like real life relationship with it. You know, we did talk poetry in a very academic way in school, but it's not as familiar as something like that coming from a family member and such. And I didn't start writing my own poetry. I used to write raps and all of that good stuff when I was younger, but I didn't start writing my own poetry until my senior year of high school. And it's interesting every time I tell that story because it's really a full circle moment. I use my poetry, my gift, to give a gift. So my first set of poems was like to give my family gifts for Christmas.
Okay.
And I'm looking at what I do now and how I use it now, and I continue to use my gift as a gift. So I really wanted to make sure that even in that moment, and now on a broader scale, that I wanted to use it to make sure that people felt seen. So it wasn't necessarily about a lack. It was more so I knew how special people feel when someone sees them in a particular way, and in a special way. I can use words in a way that everybody necessarily can't. And I would be selfish to keep that to myself, you know? So I wanted to use it as a gift in whatever way, in whatever capacity I could. And From Inglewood from Love was my first self-published collection in 2014. That's what that was. So that wasn't my first poem. I don't even remember the title of my first poem.
When you say you want people to be seen, and you look at the art in the book, there are literally no faces.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then, but there's a whole bunch of words about it.
Yeah.
Was that on purpose?
Absolutely. Everything about this was intentional. Everything from the book designer to the faceless portraits. Like I wanted I knew the O's would be a reflection. So if you read these poems and they're not about you, you can still see all the amazing Black women that you know within these lines.
Mhm.
And if you are a Black woman, you can see yourself within these words. So I wanted the portraits to be a reflection of the O's. So if the words were a reflection, I wanted the portraits to be a mirror. So if you open that book and you look at that faceless portrait, now you can put yourself in Felicia Rashad's situation. Now you can put yourself in Ava DuVernay. You know, you are that amazing person. You are that star. You are that leader. You are that innovator, you know? So it allows you to kind of juxtapose yourself into a situation and you're now seeing, and if you're not any of those things, you can see Black women. And to me, that is exceptional, right?
Mhm.
Because not only do we have to have a certain amount of books within Black neighborhoods, but now if you look at Black Roses being distributed worldwide, now you have Black women taking up space in bookshelves. You see what I'm saying? So that was important to me. And I wanted to make sure that it became a universal thing. You look at these pictures and you see yourself and you see Black women, or if you've never seen Black women before, now it's in your face.
So when I had to read a poem, but I wanted to read Dr. Jackson's Principles.
Yeah,
Of course.
absolutely,
Because,
sure.
so, and I want to read it in hopes that you see a Black woman.
Mhm.
Okay, so there are a lot of rusty parts in a broken system. Who better to fix them than someone who has seen all of them up close and personal? Success is inevitable when you take progress personal. The products of proletarians. Mama was a dispatcher, daddy drove cabs. Now you call the shots, and the driving force behind an entire district. No small dreams when you want to make a big difference. You spoke yourself into existence. You didn't wait for people to listen. Now they have to. Even the critics realize it's hard to dismiss you. And so I read that and I read it twice. And so now that was an affirmation for me as I am a teacher. I'm in school to become a principal. Now it's like, can I be Dr. Jackson? And so that was one of the things you did a good job to making sure that we didn't see her, but we saw her in that.
Absolutely.
You talk about book access. Were you around books growing up? Did you have access to books in your neighborhood?
In my neighborhood, I don't know about in my neighborhood per se. I don't remember there being a bookstore in my neighborhood. But my dad is a big bibliophile. So he always keep a stack of books. Like he always had something. We were always gifted books. My sister and I, so we always had like a nice library in our room, and we were surrounded by books in the house, but not the neighborhood per se. So I think that was kind of where it kind of stopped, you know, outside my front door where it stopped.
Does it make a difference?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you make literacy the norm, like we're on the north side right now, and there are so many neighborhoods that have bookstores, children's bookstores in particular. And when kids can go in and begin to wanderlust around all of these books and seeing people read and having space to read and having space to explore, I think it changes how you approach reading. I think when it's only pushed to you in school, then it becomes a task. It can become burdensome. When it's not looked at as fun, when you start off, you know, in those very formative years, then reading becomes academic for you, and it feels like a task. And I think that is a big difference in how affluent neighborhoods are kind of programmed or built in opposition to, and I appreciate is a strong word. That's an awkward word to use for this, but I appreciate you using the term book desert because we use food desert a lot, but there is a certain zapping or droughting that happens when you don't have places of literacy, you know, in your neighborhoods. And I mean that even when we're talking about libraries too, like because libraries traditionally feel like an academic space, you know, when you're given the opportunity to have fun with literacy. And we all know how literacy was treated within the Black community, you know, historically here. So it has to be, there's still a lot of undoing that has to happen with that. Because even with that, when we talk about like, you know, it used to be, you know, outlawed and we, you know, we weren't even able to, and that's a very harsh truth. But kids aren't always attached to history like that. Kids aren't always, they don't always do well with ultimatums, you know? So when you make it fun and when you make literacy feel like this is something that you have a choice to do, I think it changes how our minds work around it.
When we were reading the back, when they was talking a little bit about you, you ended up in the Carl Sandburg's the literary review. What is that?
So every year the CPL, Chicago Public Library Association, they have this Carl Sandburg Literary Night where they reward Chicago writers, and then they have like a Lifetime Achievement Award and another big one where those two people kind of talk on stage and get interviewed and all that great stuff. So in 2014, my self-published work from Inglewood with Love was awarded with the Carl Sandburg Literary Award, and copies of it were put in the around Chicago and Chicago public libraries, and you know, it was a beautiful night of literary celebration.
Well, congratulations. When everybody was like, Isha, Black Roses, Black Roses, and once they told me, I seen it everywhere. Then when I researched you, I saw from Inglewood with Love. What do you think the difference is about like why we know so caring so much about this and why we haven't in 2014? Why did not know about with Inglewood from?
Oh, because it was self-published. That's why. Like this is a commercial release with HarperCollins, so that means it's worldwide. Okay. You know, so it's everywhere, anywhere, and it's always funny when people talk to me because, you know, when you've been doing something for a long time and you have built-in supporters, they're used to a certain thing, and so they be like, "Man, you got something on you right now." I'm not selling out of trunk. You know, like this is a different situation. Like, this is not a mixtape girl no more. You know, so that's really the biggest difference that worldwide distribution machine is behind this collection. And you know, like just the other day I went there, like the HarperCollins Europe branch was, you know, talking about the book and how it's out in the UK now, yada yada yada. So it's just a different level of promotion and publicity that goes into commercial releases. Like even when you self-publish and stuff, you're surely not guaranteed to get inside of like a Barnes and Noble or a mom and pop bookstore and all that. But like in all of my travels, like I get to go inside of these stores in different cities and see these books and not just like them there to be on display and all of that. So it's a very beautiful thing to see that type of transition, to work that hard, to, you know, put something out yourself and really hump and bump and do all that stuff, and then to have a situation where now people are actually working. And I gotta actually get used to it. People be telling me all the time, like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. I got it. That's my job. You don't have to do that." I'm like, man, I have to remember because
this is a learning game.
Absolutely.
This is a learning game.
Absolutely.
When you talk about self-publishing, then you talk about having that big brand behind you. What is some advice that you give to aspiring writers? I am a teacher, right? Now I'm trying to make this exciting and fun, and I want to promote writing because I hear different theologies about self-published, and then let someone else know. What would you tell young authors that's coming up?
I think there's always there's different schools of thoughts on everything, and some people like self-publishing because they get to keep all them dollars, and that's great. But it's also a toil to get them dollars, you know. So I always tell people who are actually looking, because I don't ever assume that everybody is looking to be commercially published, you know. So when they ask about that in particular, I always tell them the biggest difference for me when I was able to make that leap and not make that leap was having an agent. A literary agent changes everything. I remember I was represented by someone at WME, which is like this big conglomerate. They do everything over there from TV to literary and everything in between. And this was after From Inglewood with Love, and they were trying to, shop it and do all of this stuff, and it didn't pan out. And I was talking with a publisher for like 5 years, and just steady trying to, make something happen. And then the moment I got a literary agent, all the doors open, and sometimes it really is that simple of a thing. And let me not downplay it. It's not a simple thing like you have to acquire a literary, like that's like they have to believe in your work and care about what you're doing and all that, good stuff. But and you gotta seek out the right ones, because a literary agent is not just they have specialties, so you can have some that are, strictly children's books or strictly sci-fi, or maybe they are only in nonfiction, all this stuff. So you got to do your due diligence on that part too. But that part changes the game, and having a really good one also. Because mine, she has this is even more specific than just a literary agent. She has a background in literary law. So before she became an agent, she was practicing literary law. So now I don't have to have a lawyer as well. But once you get into the contracts and all that, then you gotta have your lawyer looking at stuff. Like I have a 2-for-1 in my literary agent. So it just really is super helpful. But yeah.
So then you just talked about a little bit. So the neighborhood versus the school.
Mm-hmm.
How, because are you college educated?
Yeah, I have a master's in creative writing.
So I know you said you were introduced in what, senior year?
Of high school.
Before that, what was your access to poetry, just with your father?
And school, and
so you did poetry in high school?
My senior year of high school when I started writing.
And
what really inspired me to write it wasn't school. It was actually HBO That Poetry Jam. Like once I started seeing HBO That Poetry Jam, it was that bridge for me between it was that bridge for me between poetry and hip hop. And I was like, oh wow. So it's not just old white men sitting in some stuffy room with cigars and pipes, writing about antiquated ideas, you know what I'm saying? So it really helped me realize that there was a world where poetry looked like my neighborhood, So it wasn't just the Robert Frost of the world trying to, tell me about, these cold winter nights. It was Mos Def, it was Amir Suleiman, it was Sonny Patterson. It was all of these people who look and sound like me and come from places like I do, and made it sound cool, And luckily for me, like I told you, I have been writing raps prior to that. So I already had creative writing in my blood, but I also had a unique voice. So it was an easy transition for me. And even now when you listen to me, there's a certain musicality to my writing that still like remains. So yeah, HBO, That Poetry Jam was really what kind of sent me over there. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna start writing poetry.
How did you end up in the Holocaust?
It's so interesting. Like the museum world really enjoys me. I don't know. Like it's a very interesting relationship. Like, and and I don't even really know how to explain it, but like those people really enjoy me, like across like so many different, I work with so many different like museum groups and different spaces and, you know, whatever. And when it came to them, they had saw, and I think the catalyst for them was they saw me at the mayoral inauguration in 2015, and they were interested, like, oh my God, we're building a new exhibit, and we would love for you to be the voice when you know first walk into the exhibit, and you know it plays on this loop, yada yada yada. And it was, and the reason I love working with museum groups is because it really feeds my desire to be a lifelong learner. You know, like we all know about the Holocaust, but to be able to have such an intimate relationship with that museum and with the survivors, it was a very special situation. And it really kind of birthed other things within the museum world, but that was, I think the catalyst for that was the inauguration.
Harold, how did you pick these women?
It was hard. That was probably the hardest part. Like my family members, I was really excited. I got my mom, my sister, my wife, and who I call my sister cousin. Those were a lot. That was good. But like I came in guns blazing with my list. Like, man, I got these 100 women I want to, you know. They're like, yeah, we're gonna have to narrow that down to 40. So my editor was really good about that. She was really helpful. Because my nose was too close to the page, she was able to really help with, okay, if we have duplicates in a particular genre, or if this person kind of does what this person does, or if this person is a little less known, or if we don't have representation in this field, let's look for that. So it was a collaborative process, and I was willing and okay with the cuts, because in my mind, I came in with the idea that these are going to be values. So anybody that got left off or whatever, come around too, I'm gonna bring it back. You know, so.
Did you, so are you doing around two? Because after you go through your book, I wonder, do you ever think like, dang, I missed somebody? Was it somebody who came in here and that even in this value, like after you were done with it, like, I forgot to put somebody?
Every day. Every day. I be adding people to the list like every day, like, ooh, I can't believe. Or somebody will do something and I'll be like, yup, can't wait to write about you. You know what I'm saying? So every day I am like constantly thinking about that. Like, I mean, because every day Black women are doing amazing things, you know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking about it constantly. I remember when Ketanji Brown was won her, you know, Supreme Court situation. It was just like, and it was so many people hitting me up like, oh my God, she a Black Rose. And I'm like, I know, guys, I know, but the book is already out. Relax, okay? So yeah, no, that list is forever growing.
That's good. Would love to see this in a value. Are you thinking about making it ever local? Thinking about some of the inspired women that does it like on the ground level in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, there's 9 Chicago women in there, you know. So I will always keep a Chicago presence, you know, when I'm granted with the opportunity to, you know, do this again. I will always keep a Chicago presence in the book.
What's your favorite poem in this series? Who's your favorite dedicated?
Man, every time I do something and people ask me about favorites, I always get on their nerves because I'm not a favorites person. No, I'm not. I try to, and the reason I'm not is because I think it helps me be open to new things. Like I think when I have favorites, it closes me off from like newness. So I always just try to, you know, stay open. Like honestly, when I do like readings and different things, anything that It makes me come back to the book I read. So I'm like, oh, man, good. Like, you know, so I'm always finding a new piece to this. And even when you read Genesis point, I was like, oh man, that was good. So,
Good.
yeah.
You want to read us something?
Yeah, sure. That's good by me. Since we're talking about Chicago,
Let's go, Chicago.
yeah, I'll read Eve Ewing's poem. Yeah, let's read her. 25. Eve's loyalty. Ode to Dr. Eve Ewing. Have you ever seen someone love so hard that they learn everything they can about you, just so they can remind you who you are, how you started, and how far you have to go, just so you never forget the mission? Have you ever seen someone love so hard that they talk about you so passionately, so vividly, so clear that it forces people to listen? Have you ever seen someone love so hard they continuously create the best version of themselves so they represent you well, no matter where they go? Have you ever seen someone love so hard that people see you in them, no matter where they go? Have you ever seen someone love so hard that even when you break their heart, they still keep it open for you? Have you ever seen someone love so hard that even when you break their heart, they still won't let nobody say nothing bad about you? Have you ever seen someone love so hard that they write love letters about you and share them with the world? But that's how much Eve loves Chicago, a transformative love, a love that looks you in the eye and tells you, I know what you're made of, a love that doesn't let go. We can all learn from the way Dr. Ewing loves Chicago.
We know she loves Chicago.
Surely.
That I want to respect everyone's time. We just want to record the interview. I want to tell you a little bit about what we have coming up. Rose Café. We have a peace walk coming up in Roseland on August the 7th, where we are asking all of our allies, everybody from every part of the city, just come walk with us around the neighborhood. The more people out there, the more people know that we're serious about what we're trying to do in Roseland. Like, we really want to transform it. I kind of gotta thank Sherry for letting us come to Recycle Modern. This, you probably could see it in the background, but it's a Black-owned antique furniture boutique shop. That's what I call it, but it's really, really great. And she was the first person to actually give me my pop-up opportunity, and I'm ever grateful for that. So if you're ever in the neighborhood, you definitely gotta stop by her shop and see what she has going on. She is for all of this. Before we go, I would love for you to talk to them a little bit about Black Oak, let them know what you have coming up.
Yeah, so Black Oak is the male version of Black Roses, old celebrated powerful Black men. It came out May 31st, and it was chosen by Steph Curry for his book club in the month of June. I have a virtual conversation coming up tomorrow with Reverend Dr. Otis Moss of Trinity United. And then we have something coming up in July, an in-person event at St. Sabina with Royce Hawkins. So yeah, please support both of these wonderful collections. Thank you so much for creating space for me, Aisha. This is
No, I appreciate it. I like how you keep it local. I like when I hear like people that's doing great work say things like Saint Sabina and Trinity, because that's all our neighborhood, and that's where we give access to our neighborhood with certain things like this.
absolutely.
So I do appreciate you, and thank you guys for joining us today.